Hello and welcome back to MTS. This video is going to cover file migration using Rsync and SCP command. File migration is transferring files from one host to another or locally. The difference between Rsync and SCP is Rsync will check the destination file to see if any information is already there. If it is, it would overlook that information and just transfer the new information. SCP will just copy the information. Rsync stands for remote sync and SCP stands for secure copy. So let's get right into it. So let's start off with SCP. So I am logged in as student and I am on the server that's called test1. And this tilde sign lets me know that I am in the student home directory. This is my current location. This is my present working directory, which is /home/student. This tilde represents the home directory of the current user. And I am a regular user. So within my directory, I have no information. So let's create a file and put some information in it. So if we check now in student's home directory here, I have one file. The second server we're going to use is going to be called test2. I am also logged in as student. I'm also in the student's home directory and I'm a regular user on test2. If we look into the home directory, there's nothing here. So we know that we have one file on this test1 server and nothing here. So the syntax to SCP a file to a destination is going to be the command, which is SCP. The source is going to be the information that you want to send. In this case, it's going to be file1. And then you're going to need a username, which is student, at the destination server's host name. In this case, it is test2. I'm going to pause right here to bring up one thing. This can be done by host name or IP address. It can only be done by host name if the host name is configured on your server. That has been done in my case, so I'm using the host name. But if you haven't configured the host name on your server, you will have to use an IP address. So, and that's it. I'm going to secure copy file1 from my location to the student account on test2. And you're going to need the :/ and the destination where you want to send it. And that destination is going to be home /student, which is the student on test2's home directory. Now, when I hit enter, it's going to prompt me to input the password of the user on test2. In this case, student on test2. Are you sure you want to continue? Yes. So I put in the password for student on that server and file1 100% and it's sent. So if we do an ls here or ll, we still have the file here. But when we go to test2 and run the long listing, we now have the file on test2. And if we look into, or if we cat that file, we see the information is there. So as we continue with SCP, let's take a look at the flags or the options you can use with the command. So to see the options or more about the command, let's do man SCP and we get more information. Secure copy or recursively copy entire directories. So if you're secure copying a directory, you want to use the lowercase r option. Verbose mode causes SCP to print debugging messages about their progress. So now we want to cover how we go get a file from a host machine and bring it to our location. So let's go over to test2. We know that we have file1 here. So let's rename file1 to new file. Now we just have a new file, but it has the same information as before. And then we're just going to add another line. Okay. So now on test1 server, we want to grab that new file and bring it over to where we are. So the syntax to go and grab a file from a host machine is going to be SCP. And let's try to add an option to this one. We are going to use the verbose option just to print out some information. We're going to need the user first at the host name. Then we're going to need the source destination of what we're trying to of the file we're trying to grab. So we know it's in the home student directory, and the name of the file is new_file. Where do we want it on our server? We want it in our home directory. Since we're already there, we can use the period command to represent present working directory. Hit enter. This is what the verbose option prints out. And we want to establish that connection. Yes, I'm going to put in the password. Okay, I'm going to cancel this command here with Control-C. And here's why. The command was incorrect. Student at test. I need test 2. So now the password, debugging exit status 0. We look back, new file 100% transferred. And if we clear the screen and check here, now we have both files. And if we cat it out, there's the information. So the rsync command follows the same methodology. Let's clear the screen. In order to copy or to rsync information over, you need the command rsync with any argument. But before we get to that, let's take a look at the help page. The other arguments that come along with the rsync command. So let's go grab some directories and files that are already on this box and bring it into this user's directory. So in order for the rsync command to work, rsync must be installed on both the source and the destination virtual machine. So now we are going to rsync yum.conf over to the other virtual machine. Syntax is the same. Rsync, arguments if any. We just send in a file owned by us to the same account on the other machine. And the source is going to be yum.conf and the destination is going to be student at hostname colon and the absolute path to where you want the file to go. Need the password for the other account, and it was sent over. And if we check on the other VM, you'll see that the file is there. There is a lot of information here. And so now let's do it for the directory. To rsync a directory is going to be slightly different than SCP. So the syntax to send a directory is going to be rsync, arguments if you want any, archive, verbose, human readable, compress. The source directory, yum.repos.d, and this will send everything within the directory to the user on the destination, which is student, at the host name, at the absolute path, home student. Since we know that tilde represents the absolute path, and we want to send it to the student's home directory, we can use the tilde sign, / and we're going to create another directory called yum.repos.d. Okay, so it shows us all of the files that were sent, and it created a directory yum.repos.d because it wasn't there. And then these are the files that were sent over. So if we go to the student server on test 2, take a look. Now we have the same directory called yum.repos.d, and if we look in there, we will see those files. Now, clear the screen. Here's what will happen if we were to just run that same command, but instead of listing the yum.repos.d, we just listed the student's home directory. In this case, tilde. Keep in mind that this symbol, tilde, represents the same as home student. So if we ran that command, put in the password, it says send an incremental file list, and here are the files that was transferred. But remember, the absolute path that it was transferred to is home student. Therefore, all of these files will be in the home student directory. If we take a look, everything that is in the yum.repos.d is in the student's home directory. So if you have any questions about Rsync or SCP, you can post them down in the comments and let us know. If you like the content in this video and that we are providing in these videos, consider hitting that like button and subscribing to the channel. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.